Ladies and gentlemen, we all possess a light and a dark side. For many, the dark side is something to be feared, hidden, or repressed. Yet, what if I told you that within your shadow lies the key to unlocking your life's true purpose? The dark side, or the parts of ourselves that we push away, are often the very elements that contain the most vital insights into who we really are. These aspects are not inherently bad, rather, they are pieces of our own identity that have been neglected, misunderstood, or judged as undesirable. When we refuse to acknowledge these parts, we limit our understanding of ourselves. But when we choose to confront them, we discover a deeper connection to our authentic selves. To embrace the dark side is to embark on a journey of integration. When we accept these hidden aspects of our being, we harmonize the conscious and unconscious mind. We no longer live in opposition to ourselves, but instead grow into a more complete version of who we are meant to be. This integration brings a sense of peace and clarity that can illuminate the path to our life's purpose. Our projections are often a mirror to our own inner world. The traits we disdain in others are frequently the very traits we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. By recognizing this, we open the door to self-reflection and growth. These projections serve as messages, showing us the aspects of our being that need attention, allowing us to move closer to our true direction in life. Moreover, life is full of internal conflict. We may feel torn between opposing desires, instincts, or values. But rather than shy away from these internal struggles, we should embrace them. These conflicts are not enemies, they are catalysts for transformation. By facing them head-on, we uncover deeper truths about ourselves and what we are truly called to do in this world. In darkness, there is the potential for profound growth. Our greatest challenges often arise from our darkest moments. It is through these trials that we discover the depths of our strength and resilience, and when we allow ourselves to grow through adversity, we step closer to the realization of our purpose. Finally, embracing the dark side is not about surrendering to it. It is about balance. The journey toward wholeness is one of integrating both light and shadow. Only by accepting both can we achieve the transformation that leads to a fulfilling life. So, the next time you are confronted with your own darkness, don't turn away. Embrace it. It may very well be the key to unlocking the fullest expression of your life's purpose, the shadow self. Embrace your dark side. Every human being has a side that they would rather not face, an aspect of themselves that is hidden deep within the unconscious mind. This part is often referred to as the shadow self, and it consists of all the qualities, desires, and tendencies that society or we ourselves have deemed unacceptable. These parts of our personality, our insecurities, fears, anger, and even our darker desires are pushed away because they conflict with the idealized version of ourselves we wish to present to the world. However, the shadow is not inherently negative or harmful. Instead, it serves as a powerful guide, offering crucial insights into who we are and the path we should take in life. The shadow represents all the aspects of ourselves that we have either repressed or denied. It is the hidden, unacknowledged part of us that exists in the depths of our psyche. Often we reject these aspects because they make us feel uncomfortable, or we may fear how others will perceive us if these traits come to light. In childhood, we learn what is acceptable and what is not, based on the feedback from our parents, society, and peers. We internalize these lessons, and as we grow older, we begin to suppress any traits or behaviors that are seen as undesirable. However, by doing this, we unknowingly disconnect from vital parts of ourselves. The shadow contains powerful information about our true nature, our deepest desires, and our life's purpose. These parts are not inherently bad or evil, they are simply aspects of our wholeness that need to be acknowledged. For example, a person may repress anger, thinking that it is wrong or unspiritual to feel angry. But anger can be a healthy, protective emotion that signals a need for change or boundaries. When suppressed, this anger can manifest in destructive ways or create inner tension. Furthermore, our shadow often contains qualities that, when properly integrated, can be a source of strength. For example, qualities such as assertiveness, independence, and confidence may be repressed in individuals who were taught to be passive or accommodating. Yet, by embracing and channeling these traits, they can tap into their personal power and move toward their true purpose in life. The key is not to reject the shadow, but to accept and integrate it into our conscious awareness. The process of embracing the shadow self involves developing a compassionate awareness of these hidden aspects of ourselves. Rather than judging them as negative or undesirable, we must approach them with curiosity and understanding. It is important to recognize that the shadow is not something to be feared, but rather something to be understood and embraced. When we allow ourselves to fully accept these parts, we open the door to self-realization and personal growth. Our shadow often manifests in the form of projections, qualities we see in others that we despise or dislike. For instance, we may criticize someone for being selfish or arrogant, yet these traits are often reflections of parts of ourselves that we have denied or rejected. By acknowledging these projections, we begin to uncover hidden aspects of our own personality that need attention. The act of projection is, in a sense, a way of shining a light on our shadow, revealing to us the traits we must explore in order to fully understand ourselves. Moreover, the shadow provides important clues about our life's purpose. Often, the parts of ourselves that we have repressed hold the key to the very qualities or talents that will help us fulfill our potential. When we are brave enough to explore and integrate the shadow, we begin to align more fully with our true self, and by extension, our life's calling. For example, an individual who has suppressed their creativity for years may suddenly find that they are drawn to artistic endeavors, which leads them to uncover a deep sense of fulfillment and purpose that they never realized existed. In conclusion, embracing the shadow self is not about giving in to the darkness or letting it control our lives. It is about understanding the full spectrum of who we are, recognizing the hidden aspects of ourselves, and integrating them into our conscious awareness. The shadow, when embraced, becomes a powerful force for personal transformation. By accepting our darker aspects, we unlock the potential for greater self-understanding, authenticity, and purpose. Rather than hiding from our shadow, we must learn to walk with it, because in doing so, we come to understand the truth of who we are, and with that understanding, we can unlock the true purpose of our lives. Rather than hiding from all danger, the shadow brings with it hard-won light. The hard call of life requires yoga. The yoga is art. Integration of the shadow. Brahman, the inner man's grid. Often when we think of ourselves, we focus on the aspects that are socially acceptable or admirable, the qualities that make us feel good and accepted. However, there is another part of us that resides in the shadows of our unconscious mind, an aspect of our being that we may choose to ignore or suppress because it doesn't fit the ideal image we wish to portray. This hidden part of ourselves is called the shadow, and it contains repressed emotions, desires, fears, and instincts that we may be uncomfortable with or unaware of. The process of integrating the shadow is not about eliminating or rejecting these darker parts of ourselves. Rather, it is about acknowledging and accepting them, allowing them to become conscious, and ultimately aligning them with our conscious desires, thoughts, and actions. When we engage in this integration, we begin to reconcile the dual aspects of our nature, the light and the dark, leading to a deeper sense of authenticity and fulfillment in life. At its core, the integration of the shadow is about creating a more balanced, authentic self. Most of us go through life suppressing parts of our personality that we consider undesirable. We may feel embarrassed or ashamed of certain emotions, like anger, jealousy, or sadness. Alternatively, we may reject aspects of our character that we perceive as weak, selfish, or flawed. These feelings and traits, when suppressed, do not disappear. Instead, they remain buried within the unconscious mind, influencing our thoughts and actions in ways we may not fully understand. For example, someone who constantly suppresses their anger may appear calm and collected on the surface, but deep within, the unacknowledged anger could manifest in passive-aggressive behavior or resentment. Similarly, someone who suppresses their need for independence might become overly reliant on others, feeling trapped or unfulfilled. The more we resist acknowledging these parts of ourselves, the more they remain hidden in the shadows, and the more they continue to affect our behavior in subtle and destructive ways. Integrating the shadow is a process of bringing these repressed aspects of ourselves into the light of our conscious awareness. When we acknowledge the emotions, desires, and traits we have previously ignored or rejected, we begin to understand ourselves more fully. This doesn't mean acting out all of our darker impulses in destructive ways, but rather learning to accept them and channel them in healthy, constructive directions. When we integrate the shadow, we begin to align our conscious mind with our unconscious desires and instincts. This alignment leads to greater authenticity, as we no longer feel divided or conflicted within ourselves. Instead of trying to hide parts of who we are, we embrace them, allowing ourselves to act in alignment with our true nature. This alignment also brings a sense of inner peace. When we acknowledge our hidden desires and feelings, we no longer need to repress them, which reduces internal tension and conflict. Furthermore, integrating the shadow leads to a more fulfilling life. When we accept and embrace all parts of ourselves, we experience a sense of wholeness. Instead of feeling like we are constantly at war with ourselves, we begin to feel more at ease with who we are, which makes it easier to navigate life's challenges. We become more resilient because we are no longer avoiding or repressing parts of ourselves that might otherwise cause us pain. Instead, we have faced them head-on and made peace with them. Another important aspect of shadow integration is that it allows us to live more authentically. When we integrate the shadow, we are no longer wearing masks or pretending to be someone we are not. We show up in the world as our true selves, free from the burden of shame or self-doubt. This authenticity is not only empowering for ourselves, but also for those around us, as it encourages others to embrace their own shadows and live more authentically. Integrating the shadow also enhances our creativity and self-expression. Many creative individuals are driven by unconscious desires and emotions, and when they embrace their full range of feelings, they can channel these energies into their art, work, or relationships. The shadow is a source of untapped potential and energy, and by integrating it, we unlock new ways of thinking and being. It enables us to see the world more clearly, without the distortion of repressed emotions or desires clouding our vision. In conclusion, the integration of the shadow is a profound and transformative process. It is a journey of self-acceptance and self-awareness, where we bring our hidden parts into the light of conscious awareness. By doing so, we align our unconscious desires with our conscious actions, leading to a life that is more authentic, fulfilling, and whole. The process of shadow integration allows us to embrace all aspects of ourselves, leading to deeper creativity, stronger relationships, and a more meaningful life. Rather than resisting or rejecting the darker parts of ourselves, we can choose to face them, integrate them, and ultimately become more complete and authentic human beings. The power of projection, how disdain for others mirrors our hidden self. We all have moments when we find ourselves irritated or repulsed by certain traits in others. Perhaps it's someone's arrogance, their inability to take responsibility, or their tendency to be overly controlling. We judge these qualities as negative and may even feel justified in disliking them. But what if I told you that the very traits you despise in others are often reflections of parts of yourself that you have yet to accept or recognize? This phenomenon is known as projection, a psychological mechanism that involves attributing our own feelings, traits, or desires onto others. Rather than acknowledging these qualities within ourselves, we project them outward, seeing them in others and reacting to them with judgment or disdain. Projections are often the result of unconscious processes, parts of our own psyche that we are unwilling to confront. Yet, by understanding and exploring these projections, we can unlock valuable insights into our own lives and discover hidden strengths and talents that we have been suppressing. At its core, projection occurs when we refuse to accept certain aspects of ourselves. These aspects could be traits we deem negative, such as anger, jealousy, selfishness, or even vulnerability. Rather than owning these qualities, we push them into the unconscious mind, where they become part of our shadow. The shadow is made up of all the aspects of our personality that we consider undesirable or unworthy of recognition. But just because we repress these parts doesn't mean they go away. Instead, they surface in other ways, often through projections onto the people around us. For example, someone who is highly critical of others may have a deep fear of criticism themselves, a fear they have never fully acknowledged. They may project this fear onto others by criticizing them harshly or becoming defensive when faced with feedback. Alternatively, a person who despises arrogance in others may be projecting their own unacknowledged confidence or desire for recognition, fearing that showing these traits would make them seem conceited or self-absorbed. These projections are powerful indicators of what we have yet to accept about ourselves. When we are able to recognize the traits we despise in others as reflections of our own unresolved issues, we can begin to explore the underlying causes of our reactions. This awareness allows us to confront the very traits we have repressed, bringing them into conscious awareness where we can integrate them rather than continue to push them away. Recognizing projections opens the door to profound personal growth. Instead of simply reacting to the people around us with judgment or irritation, we can ask ourselves, why does this trait in others bother me so much? What is it about this characteristic that I find so difficult to accept? By doing so, we create an opportunity to reflect on our own inner world and explore the qualities we may have denied in ourselves. For instance, if you find yourself irritated by someone's excessive need for control, ask yourself whether you have ever struggled with your own desire to control situations. Perhaps this trait in others mirrors your own attempts to create security or order in your life, something you may not have fully acknowledged. By recognizing this, you can begin to address your own fears and insecurities around control and learn healthier ways of navigating uncertainty. Similarly, if you find yourself reacting strongly to someone's arrogance, it may be helpful to examine your own relationship with self-worth. Do you feel uncomfortable expressing confidence or assertiveness? Are you afraid of being perceived as arrogant? By recognizing this projection, you can begin to explore the possibility of embracing your own self-confidence without fear of judgment. In doing so, you reclaim your personal power and begin to live more authentically. The power of projection also offers an opportunity to unlock hidden strengths. The traits we project onto others often point to aspects of ourselves that, when fully embraced, can become sources of empowerment. For example, if you find yourself disliking someone who is outspoken and bold, it may be a sign that you have suppressed your own voice or desire to express yourself more freely. By recognizing this projection, you can begin to claim your own power of expression and assert your needs with confidence. When we embrace the lessons contained in our projections, we move toward greater self-awareness and growth. Rather than viewing our judgments of others as simply flaws or imperfections in others, we can see them as mirrors reflecting parts of ourselves that are begging to be acknowledged and integrated. By doing so, we free ourselves from the cycle of unconscious projection and begin to develop a more compassionate and understanding relationship with both ourselves and others. Moreover, recognizing and owning our projections leads to a deeper sense of direction in life. As we become more aware of our inner dynamics, we gain clarity on what drives us and what holds us back. We start to understand our fears, desires, and aspirations more clearly, which allows us to make decisions that are more aligned with our true purpose. The traits we once despised in others become sources of insight into what we need to heal, grow, and ultimately embrace in ourselves. In conclusion, the power of projection is an invaluable tool for self-discovery. By recognizing that the traits we despise in others often mirror aspects of our own unresolved selves, we open the door to deeper understanding, healing, and personal growth. Rather than reacting with judgment, we can use projections as opportunities for introspection and integration. In doing so, we not only uncover hidden strengths and talents, but also gain greater clarity on our life's direction, moving closer to our authentic, purposeful selves. Confronting the inner conflict, embracing the tension between light and dark. Every person experiences inner conflict at some point in their life. It can take many forms. The struggle between what we think we should do and what we truly desire, the tension between our ideals and the reality we face, or the push and pull between our light and dark sides. These internal battles often feel uncomfortable, even overwhelming, but they are not challenges to be avoided. In fact, it is precisely within these conflicts that we find transformative energy that can propel us toward clarity, growth, and the discovery of our true purpose. Inner conflict arises when different aspects of ourselves are in opposition. On one hand, there is the light side, our conscious desires, the person we aspire to be, and the values we hold dear. On the other hand, there is the dark side, our suppressed desires, repressed emotions, and the traits that we may deem undesirable or unworthy. This duality exists within everyone, but the difficulty comes when we try to ignore or suppress one side in favor of the other. When we do this, we create an internal imbalance that leads to confusion, frustration, and a lack of direction in life. The natural response to inner conflict is often to try and resolve it by avoiding one side or the other. For example, we might try to suppress our anger or jealousy because we view these emotions as negative or unspiritual. Alternatively, we may deny our desires for power, success, or independence, fearing that they are selfish or egotistical. However, this avoidance only prolongs the conflict. The more we resist our darker aspects, the more power they hold over us, continuing to influence our thoughts, behaviors, and decisions in ways we may not even be aware of. The key to resolving inner conflict is not to push one side away, but to confront it. The tension between our light and dark sides, when acknowledged, holds transformative energy. It is in the very friction between these opposing forces that we find the potential for personal growth and self-discovery. This tension acts as a catalyst for change, pushing us to explore the aspects of ourselves that we have either neglected or rejected. When we face these conflicting parts of ourselves, we gain valuable insights into who we truly are and what we are meant to do in this life. By confronting our inner conflict, we also begin to understand that neither the light nor the dark side is inherently bad. The light side represents our conscious self, the part of us that is responsible for creating order, pursuing goals, and living according to our values. The dark side, however, is not something to be feared or eradicated. It contains repressed desires, instinctual drives, and emotions that, when integrated, can become sources of power, creativity, and personal authenticity. The dark side is a part of who we are. It is the unconscious mind's way of revealing what has been denied or hidden for too long. When we choose to confront our inner conflict, we stop viewing it as something negative or shameful. Instead, we begin to see it as an opportunity for growth. For example, a person who feels torn between pursuing a stable career and following a creative passion may initially struggle with guilt or confusion. They may feel torn between the security and practicality of the stable job, the light side. However, by facing this inner conflict head-on, they may realize that both desires are valid, and the key to resolving the conflict lies in integrating these two aspects of their personality. The person may decide to take small steps toward their creative passion while maintaining the stability of their job, finding a balance that honors both sides of their being. Confronting inner conflict also provides us with the clarity to make decisions that are aligned with our true purpose. When we ignore our dark side, we often find ourselves living inauthentically, driven by external expectations or fear of judgment. The inner conflict we experience can serve as a wake-up call, urging us to reassess our values, goals, and desires. As we face the tension within ourselves, we begin to uncover what truly matters to us, what brings us fulfillment, meaning, and joy. This clarity guides us toward our life's purpose, helping us make choices that are in harmony with our deepest desires and strengths. Furthermore, resolving inner conflict brings a sense of inner peace. When we no longer feel torn between opposing desires or values, we experience a sense of wholeness and alignment. We stop living in contradiction to ourselves and begin to act with greater integrity. This peace is not the absence of conflict, but rather the acceptance of both our light and dark sides, understanding that they are part of a larger whole. By embracing both sides, we achieve a sense of balance and authenticity that allows us to move forward in life with confidence and purpose. In conclusion, confronting inner conflict is not about choosing one side over the other. It is about embracing the tension between light and dark and using that energy to propel us toward growth and self-awareness. By facing our inner conflicts, we gain the clarity and insights needed to understand ourselves more deeply and move closer to our true purpose in life. Rather than avoiding or repressing the aspects of ourselves that we find difficult, we must confront them, integrate them, and learn from them. In doing so, we transform our inner conflict into a powerful force for personal evolution, guiding us toward a more authentic, fulfilling, and purposeful life. Growth through darkness, embracing the power of the dark side for personal transformation. When we think about darkness, we often associate it with negativity, evil, or something to be feared. Darkness can represent many things: pain, fear, confusion, and even the unknown. However, what if I told you that the dark side of ourselves is not inherently evil or harmful, but rather an essential and transformative force in our journey toward growth and self-realization? Throughout life, we encounter moments of darkness, emotional struggles, personal failures, or internal battles with our deepest fears and insecurities. These experiences often feel uncomfortable, sometimes even unbearable, but they also present an invaluable opportunity for growth. The darkness within us is not something to be avoided or repressed, but something to be embraced. In fact, it is often in the darkest moments that we discover the most profound insights about who we are and what we are meant to do in life. The concept of the dark side encompasses more than just negative emotions or traits. It includes all the parts of ourselves that we tend to hide, suppress, or deny. These can be the aspects we perceive as weaknesses, our anger, jealousy, insecurities, or fears. Yet, these parts are not inherently bad or destructive. They are simply parts of our humanity that we have been taught to avoid, fear, or suppress. However, when we choose to confront these aspects rather than repress them, we begin to unlock a powerful source of personal transformation. One of the key ways in which the dark side facilitates growth is through the lessons it offers. Often, the traits and experiences we find most challenging are the ones that hold the greatest potential for self-discovery. For example, someone who experiences deep fear may find that confronting this fear head-on leads to greater courage and resilience. A person who struggles with feelings of inadequacy may, through self-reflection, uncover the root of these feelings and begin the process of healing, ultimately leading to a more authentic sense of self-worth. Growth through darkness requires us to confront and understand the parts of ourselves that we have long avoided. It is easy to label these parts as bad and push them into the shadows. We often believe that to be a good, worthy person, we must only express positive traits such as kindness, generosity, and patience. Yet, denying or repressing our darker emotions can lead to internal conflict, confusion, and a lack of true self-awareness. To grow, we must learn to integrate all parts of ourselves, both light and dark. Take, for example, a person who has spent years trying to be the perfect individual, always accommodating others, always self-sacrificing. This person may be seen as good, kind, and compassionate, but they may also be suppressing their own needs and desires. The darkness here might manifest as frustration, resentment, or even a feeling of being lost or unfulfilled. When this individual finally confronts the dark side of their personality, the selfish desires they've been denying, they may begin to understand that their own needs are just as important as the needs of others. This realization can lead to healthier relationships, a more balanced life, and a deeper connection to their true self. The process of embracing the dark side also leads to greater self-realization. When we face the parts of ourselves that challenge us the most, we gain a deeper understanding of our fears, limitations, and desires. These challenges are often what push us toward greater awareness and self-acceptance. For instance, someone who has spent years battling feelings of inadequacy might eventually come to realize that these feelings stem from early experiences of rejection or unmet needs. By understanding the source of these emotions, they can begin to heal and, over time, transform the insecurity into a source of strength. Furthermore, growth through darkness often reveals a sense of purpose. It is in facing our darkest moments that we become more aware of what truly matters to us. The pain, fear, and struggle we experience help us clarify what we want out of life and what we are willing to fight for. These trials are often the very experiences that shape our purpose and guide us toward fulfilling our potential. For instance, a person who has faced significant hardship in their life may find that their purpose is to help others who are struggling, using their own experience to offer guidance and support. The darkness they faced becomes the catalyst for discovering their life's true calling. Ultimately, life's purpose is often revealed when we confront our shadows and allow ourselves to fully experience the emotions, desires, and fears that we have long denied. It is through this process of integration that we come to realize that our darkest moments are not roadblocks, but stepping stones on the path to becoming our true selves. Growth is not linear. It is cyclical, and sometimes we must dive into the depths of our own darkness to rise again with newfound wisdom, strength, and clarity. In conclusion, the dark side of ourselves is not something to fear or reject. It is an integral part of our journey toward growth, self-realization, and purpose. The challenges we face, the internal conflicts we experience, and the emotions we try to avoid all have the potential to lead us to deeper self-awareness and authenticity. By embracing the darkness, we open ourselves to a world of transformation and possibility, allowing us to expand and evolve into the fullest version of who we are meant to be. We would not fully understand or appreciate the light, and without light, darkness would lack context. The balance between the two creates harmony within our psyche, allowing us to access deeper levels of awareness, authenticity, and power. For many people, the dark side represents qualities like fear, anger, jealousy, or shame. These emotions and traits are often seen as negative, and society often teaches us to suppress them. We are encouraged to smile through our pain, to act as though everything is fine even when we feel lost, or to hide our vulnerabilities behind a mask of strength and confidence. However, by denying these parts of ourselves, we lose access to important aspects of our personal power. Suppressing emotions like anger, for example, does not eliminate them. It simply forces them to remain in our unconscious mind, where they can manifest in destructive ways, such as passive aggressiveness or self-sabotage. When we choose to embrace the dark side, we are not giving in to these negative traits. Instead, we are acknowledging them as part of who we are and learning to work with them in healthy ways. For instance, anger can be a powerful force for change when expressed constructively. It can motivate us to stand up for ourselves, to set boundaries, or to pursue justice. Similarly, fear, when understood and confronted, can guide us toward personal growth, helping us move beyond our comfort zones and take risks that align with our true desires. These emotions, when integrated, become sources of strength rather than liabilities. The path to wholeness involves confronting the shadow, the aspects of ourselves that we often avoid or reject, and bringing them into our conscious awareness. This process is not easy. It requires courage, vulnerability, and self-compassion. It involves recognizing the parts of ourselves that we have labeled as bad or unworthy and accepting them as valuable pieces of the puzzle that makes up our true self. By doing so, we are not only healing old wounds but also gaining greater insight into our needs, desires, and motivations. When we embrace our dark side, we begin to understand ourselves more fully. We see the ways in which our past experiences, fears, and insecurities have shaped who we are today. We start to recognize patterns in our behavior, how we react to certain triggers, how we avoid difficult emotions, or how we project our unresolved issues onto others. By becoming aware of these patterns, we can begin to make conscious choices that align with our true values and desires, rather than acting out of unconscious fear or shame. This integration of light and shadow also fosters a greater sense of empathy and compassion for others. When we accept our own darkness, we are more likely to accept and understand the darkness in others. We no longer judge people for their flaws or mistakes, but recognize that everyone is on their own journey of self-discovery and transformation. This shift in perspective allows us to build deeper, more authentic relationships with others, based on acceptance and mutual respect. Moreover, embracing both light and dark leads to greater self-empowerment. Rather than feeling torn between competing parts of ourselves, we begin to experience a sense of inner unity. We no longer feel like we are divided into fragments, one part of us striving to be good and perfect, while another part hides in shame or fear. Instead, we realize that the fullness of who we are lies in the integration of all our parts. This recognition allows us to act with greater authenticity and confidence, knowing that we are whole, complete, and worthy just as we are. In practical terms, achieving this balance means learning to navigate life's challenges with both wisdom and vulnerability. It involves taking responsibility for the parts of ourselves that we have previously rejected and owning the strengths that come from our darker experiences. For example, someone who has struggled with deep sadness may eventually discover that this sadness, when embraced, can lead to a profound sense of empathy for others who are suffering. Similarly, someone who has battled with self-doubt may come to realize that embracing this uncertainty has given them a deep sense of humility and resilience. Ultimately, the journey toward wholeness is about reconciling all parts of ourselves, the light and the dark, so that we can live in harmony and alignment with our true selves. Transformation occurs not through the suppression or denial of our darker aspects, but through the integration of all aspects of our being. When we embrace both our light and shadow, we open the door to a life that is more authentic, fulfilling, and meaningful. We no longer feel fragmented or incomplete, but instead experience a deep sense of inner peace, purpose, and empowerment. In conclusion, transformation and wholeness arise when we embrace the balance between light and shadow. The dark side is not to be feared, but understood and integrated into our conscious self. It is through this process that we achieve true self-realization, stepping into our fullest potential and living a life aligned with our deepest values and purpose. By accepting and embracing both our light and dark sides, we become whole, and in doing so, we unlock the transformative power within us.